Hey guys, welcome to the All Sports Pass Podcast North. I'm your host, XNASCAR Eagle X, and today, welcome to the third video of the SEC schedule predictions series. Today I'll be covering the Ole Miss Rebels schedule, and keep in mind, these are my predictions. These are what I think will happen during the season. And with that being said, leave a like, subscribe for more college football content and more SEC schedule predictions. And without further ado, let's begin. So Ole Miss is coming into this season following a 10-2 2023 season, and as well as the fact that they won the Peach Bowl as well. So of course, it seems like Ole Miss can have some momentum, but however, I do think that they do have one notable departure I want to talk about, and that is running back Quinshon Judkins. And let me just tell you his career at Ole Miss real quick. He played in 26 games, started 19 of them. He had 31 total touchdowns, 31 rushing touchdowns, and as well as having 3 total receiving touchdowns during his career at Ole Miss. So he was, he was making things work for this Ole Miss offense, and I do think that, of course, with him going to Ohio State, it's going to be interesting to see how Ole Miss can rebuild this running back position and heading into the season. But however, there is a notable incoming transfer that I want to talk about, and that is defensive lineman Walter Nolen. Walter Nolen spent his last two seasons for him at Texas A&M, and he had a total of 66 total tackles. So Walter Nolen, in my opinion, can reinforce this D-line for Ole Miss. So it's going to be interesting to see how their defense can play throughout the season. All right, and now they're heading into Week 1, playing against Furman. And here's what I'm going to say. Ole Miss is going to win this game in their home opener. And, of course, heading into Week 2, they're also playing again at home. I'm going to say this. Ole Miss is going to win these 2 games simply because, these teams, in my opinion, are not that strong, really. But however, hey, it's college football. Anything can happen. We've seen upsets. We've seen a lot of good games come out of these upsets as well. But however, it is highly unlikely with these 2 teams. So I'm just going to say Ole Miss is going to start season 2-0. And then the next week, their first away game will be at Wake Forest. And here's what I'm going to say. Wake Forest is coming into this season following a 4-8 season. And I'm just going to say this, Wake Forest hosting this game, I think, Ole Miss is going to be able to defeat them pretty good. I just do not think Wake Forest, now, unless Wake Forest can rebuild and prepare ahead of time for this game, I just think Ole Miss is going to win this game pretty good. So I'm going to give Ole Miss a 3-0 start here. Then the next week, they're at home against Georgia Southern, And here's what I'm going to say. Ole Miss is going to win this game simply because, Georgia Southern, in my opinion, isn't as strong of a team as Ole Miss, so I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss. Then the next game is their home SEC conference opener against Kentucky. And Kentucky is coming off a 7-6 season, and of course a 38-35 loss to Clemson in the Gator Bowl. Now Kentucky, they've had some pretty good games in the past few seasons. It's just can they rebound this season and bring in a bit more to what they were missing last season. And however, I do not think that that they will be able to beat Ole Miss now. However, so I say, college football, anything can happen. But however, like I say, with an incoming transfer, should Walter Nolen start, you're gonna have to get by the D line and everything. So here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Ole Miss is gonna win and improve their record to 5-0 to start the season. So I'm gonna give this one to Ole Miss. All right, and then the next week they're playing South Carolina. And I have to say, I think I do think that South Carolina is a decent team in my opinion. Heck, 2 seasons in 2022, they actually ended Tennessee's hope for a national hope for play to play in the playoffs for the national championship, and I was really shocked that game. That game they won 63-38, and it was really shocking to me because I believe Tennessee was favored in that game, and South Carolina ended up blowing them out. And then the next game for South Carolina, like they're in that was actually, I believe it was I was believing Clemson was ranked number 8, I believe. They ended up winning against Clemson. So South Carolina, they can pull some upsets, um, but however, do I think that that they will be able to beat Ole Miss? I don't think so. Just simply due to the fact that I think Ole Miss, it's like I say, with their D line, will be able to have the defense to win against South Carolina, and that's what I think will happen. So I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss. Then the next game, LSU. We talked briefly about LSU on the show yesterday. If y'all want to watch that video, I'll leave it in the description down below for you. But LSU is coming off a 10-3 season with 6-2 in the SEC, and they ended up, I believe. Sorry, I don't. It's not. I believe they actually lost to Ole Miss last season by a score of 55-49, and now LSU, I think, of course, can they bring some success from their 10-3 season over to this season? It's going to be interesting to see I just think that LSU. When we talk about LSU, they're like one of the most well-known teams in college football and the Southeastern Conference. However, I just think that of course, Ole Miss will be able to pull this one off, and I just do think that Ole Miss is going to be able to win this one. So I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss. Then the next week, Ole Miss is back at home. I'm sorry, not the next week, the next game because it's an off week. They are back at home against SEC newcomer Oklahoma, and I'm gonna say this. Like when we did Oklahoma yesterday, I had Ole Miss winning this game, simply because simply just because I just think Oklahoma. They're playing some of these newer SEC, like they're playing newer opponents really, like in a new conference. So it's gonna be pretty interesting. I think I'm gonna see this game on TV. I'm gonna try to watch it if it's available. I'm gonna try to watch this game, and if not, I'll watch the highlights of this game. But however, I'm excited to see what Oklahoma can do this season. But I said on the show yesterday that I think Ole Miss is going to win this one, simply because I just think that Oklahoma has had some good runs. They just aren't able to execute like during the midpoint of the season really. Now of course that could change. However, I just think I'm going to give Ole Miss this win. And then the next week they're going to be playing away at Arkansas, and Arkansas really has not been as strong of a team recently, so I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss. And then the next game they're playing is against Georgia, and Georgia, of course, when they had a 29-game winning streak before, of course, losing to Alabama in the SEC championship game. It's going to be interesting to see how Georgia will rebound. I think they're going to rebound pretty good. They should recover. And I'm going to say this, if they don't recover, I'm going to be shocked because Georgia has been top team for like 2-3 years now. And of course, for Ole Miss, they're going to have to play a really great game if they want to beat Georgia. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give Georgia this win here simply because, Georgia is really, like they're like the top team in the NCAA and college football as a whole, as well as the top team in the SEC. And, I just think that, heading into this one, I'm going to give it to Georgia, just simply because, with Georgia's offense and their defense, I just think, they're going to be able to outplay Ole Miss, and and it'll give Georgia a win this season and give Ole Miss their first loss of the season. All right, and then the next week they're playing away at Florida. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give this one, like, Florida, last season Florida ended up, doing pretty good, in my opinion. They ended up, upsetting Tennessee. And, I'm sorry, never mind, not pretty good. They were decent. I'm sorry. I got them confused with another team. So sorry about that. Hey, listen, as a podcaster, you're gonna make mistakes. You're human. You're prone to making some mistakes. However, what I mean by doing pretty decent, and what I meant by pretty good is the fact that is that they were is that they did defeat Tennessee, who was number 11 at the time. Now they didn't make the playoffs, but however, I'm sorry, they didn't make the bowl game, excuse me. But however, they did upset number 11 Tennessee, and then the next week they played Charlotte, and then they lost Kentucky, and then they went unranked the rest of the season. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what Florida can do. But however, I do think it's going to be highly unlikely that they're going to win it. So I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss. And then the next game, Mississippi State. And of course, you see on the screen it says date subject to change. As of now, this is scheduled for November 30th. They will update whenever, if they decide that the date will change or will not change. But anyway, I'm going to say this. Mississippi State has not really been as strong as a team in recent years, in my opinion. So I'm going to give this one to Ole Miss, and I just think for Ole Miss, they're gonna finish this season 9-1 in the regular. I'm sorry, 11-1 in regular season. I just think that of course, Ole Miss, if they can bring that success from 2023 into 2024, then they can be hard to beat. Now, do I think that they'll be contenders for the SEC championship? For the SEC championship. It depends on how everyone else plays, really. And like I say, we're still very early into this series, so it will be pretty interesting to see what I think about the rest of these team schedules, and it'll also be interesting to see how Ole Miss can fare. Of course, like I say, with the loss of Quinshon Judkins, but however, getting a getting an incoming transfer in Walter Nolan. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to really move this season when they start playing here in August. All right, that's all I got for y'all tonight. If y'all like this video, give it a like, subscribe for more college football content, more SEC schedule predictions. And also, before I get off here, keep in mind, like I said, these are my predictions, and I'm not going to be perfect. These are just what I think is going to happen during the season. And also keep in mind, I'm still learning as well. But however, I do feel like that, I've been getting a bit better when making some predictions. So, yeah, that's all I got for y'all tonight. Like, subscribe for more content. Peace out.